I'll just hold it and
There was a committee formed years ago, of which I was a member, and Dinsdale was also a member. And we had a disagreement on the authenticity of some of the dogs. And Jeff is a politician from a long way back. And he wanted to make sure that this particular party in the Northwest Territories got their dogs registered, and I opposed it, and the Canadian Kennel Club agreed with me. So that, I've known Jeff for 20 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Were your dogs registered with the Canadian Kennel Club?
Every one of them. Now, it's unfortunate that this came about because about 3 days ago, my wife and I started going through all the files that we have for everything you can think of, and we shredded a whole bunch of stuff, and then you phoned.
Oh.
And so all the registration papers for all the dogs were all shredded.
That's disheartening because we were hoping to be able to see some of the history, and
Yeah.
there's so many gaps. And right now,
There's a woman in Quebec that's supposed to be the,
Yeah, what was her name?
I can't remember, the authority on Eskimo dogs, and she knows no more about Eskimo dogs than
Guinevere Montcalm?
That's her.
Yes, that's her. That's her name.
That's her.
Oh,
Well, Guinevere Montcalm, and I'm not going to get into politics, but Guinevere Montcalm is a very firm believer that you shouldn't be registering your dogs, and
why?
You should just let them be. Like if you go out and if the older dogs get into a fight with the younger dogs rather than keep the older dogs together, she believes that the dog should tackle the older dog and just kill it there in the yard. That they should just be like that.
Well, she had weird ideas. We figured that a long time ago.
Oh yeah, do you run dogs?
yes,
Yes, I do.
Both of you run them?
yes.
That's why she's come up here so we can exchange some stock. And obviously I'm in a better area to sled. So she's going to come up in the winter. We're going to do some sledding back and forth and exchange dogs.
Yeah, sure.
How long have you been running dogs? Or
Well, I started with the Siberians. My husband loves the Malamutes, and then we jointly decided to. We love the breed, and
Yeah.
that's our heart breed is the Canadian
sounds
Eskimo
like
Dogs.
us. We started with Malamutes, didn't we?
Yep.
We showed them, and yeah. But,
I don't think there's any comparison between Siberians, Malamutes, or Eskimo dogs.
yeah.
There's good Eskimo dogs, well maintained and well looked after, and if somebody is the boss, will outperform Siberians or
You're right.
Malamutes
You're
or
absolutely. I should know. I have all three breeds.
Right
Yeah.
now,
Yes,
You have what?
I have all three.
how many dogs do you have altogether?
Just about 30.
Where do you live in Alberta?
Yeah, about an hour and 45 minutes northwest of Edmonton.
Oh yeah.
It's in a very large recreational area. We're surrounded by lakes and it's a Whitecourt. Alberta is it's what you call the skidoo capital of Alberta. So you can get on all the skidoo trails and stuff like that as well. And the biggest problem we've been having in Alberta though is no snow.
You
I
didn't have much snow last year?
Or the year before or the year before
Well,
that.
Well, we had piles of it.
Oh, we
didn't
had lots of it last year.
I know.
And the year
Best
before.
season ever for me last year.
So you've had both. So do you
In
do you
Golden
not
Horse.
believe that the
Oh, yeah,
Canadian
Golden
Eskimo
Horse.
dogs are smarter, more loyal, easier to train? Like when you
we
were
like to go,
when you were training your dogs, did you find them hard to train, or do you find that they just do it once and it's instinctive?
I found them to be very smart.
He loved those Eskimo dogs.
I just love them.
but we just got too old
The
to
only
do
thing about Eskimo dogs is somebody has to be the boss, and it better be you.
it. Yeah.
You
And
betcha.
they have to find that out very early in
No,
life.
We found that Malamutes were, well, we showed them too, and that kind of spoiled them. They were like prima donnas then,
Yeah.
you know.
I show all my dogs.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
And that's why we've joined forces, so that we don't lose that working ethic. We're going down.
Sorry.
We're going down to do a conference in November, and I'm taking 2 of my working dogs that have never been shown, right, to show them the difference. You know, like
We're-
this is a working dog that has just come off the sled. This is a working female. This is a working male. They're going to be father and daughter. The father is the one that, I don't know if you remember, but you saw, I have a Toyota Land Cruiser. I used to have another one. Anyway, you saw him in the back of Tim Hortons one day, and you were like, "Oh, that's a Canadian Eskimo dog." And I went, "Yes, it is." And I was very
I
proud.
don't remember all that.
yeah.
It must have been a long time.
Well, you
ago.
impressed me right from the get-go, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
The, my finding was that Eskimo dogs run as a team of Eskimo dogs, 100% Eskimo dogs, didn't perform nearly as well as a team of Eskimo dogs that had a mutt leader.
Yeah, that seems to be better.
Now, the mutt,
Although you did have one good female leader. What
not
was
Eskimo
Tundra?
dog, well, but she wasn't good in that she was one of the short-legged variety,
Yeah.
and the short-legged variety don't make the same kind of time as the longer ones.
But she was
There's-
faithful and everything.
Oh, she was very, very faithful and very, very good at commands and things like that. But never put out, the Eskimo dogs never put out like they did with the mutt leaders. And I had a pair of mutt leaders that would make probably 12 miles an hour. And the Eskimo dogs would just go like stink.
Do you find with the did you find, I should say, with the Canadian Eskimo dogs that you always had to run them on groomed trails, or did your gang just, they would break trail if you wanted them to say go somewhere, they would break trail with no problem?
I had no problem going anywhere I wanted to go. The only thing is I had really good leaders, and my definition of a leader and expectations of a leader probably vary a great deal from yours and other people's, you know. If the dog goes ahead, a lot of people figure that's a good leader. That
A lot of mushers.
doesn't
are
mean a
like that.
thing as far as I'm concerned. A good leader has to do as is told, and has to, you know, if you want to go G, you got to go G, and it may take you an hour to make that turn G, but you got to go G. But they can be spoilt very fast. We had an excellent team, and we went. I was a citizenship court judge for a while, and I forget where we were going. Prince Edward Island, I think.
Charlottetown.
And there was a girl that was staying with us that was running dogs from here. So she said, "Do you mind if I run your team while you're away?" And I said, "No, go right ahead." Well, when I got back, I said, "How'd you make out?" And she said, "Oh, those dogs of yours." She said, I don't know, I just can't get along with them." And I said, "Why is that?" And she said, "Well, I got as far as the golf course, and they'd turn around and come back." And I said, "Well, what did you do?" And she said, "Well, what could you do?" Well, so I said, "Is that right, eh?" So anyway, I hooked them up, and we got to the golf course, and they turned around. And I said, "That's come to an end, boys.
Yeah.
Get down to business." And so I found a tree that I could tie off on and got them all turned around and smartened up a little bit. And they tried it twice, but after that they never did it again.
Yeah, she wasn't firm enough with it.
But, you know, somebody has to be the boss. It's got to be the guy that runs the dogs.
When you were showing your dogs, did you show any of the Canadian Eskimo
Oh, yeah,
dogs?
sure.
Yeah.
And how did you do in the rings?
We won.
We didn't get best in show or anything because they're hard to show. They'll give you 2 minutes to stand still. You know what they're like. And but Malamutes, you could do anything with them. But I found with the Eskimo dogs, they were too strong for me, especially the males.
Well, I found that I had to either use the snow hook around a tree or use 2 snow hooks.
Yeah.
Because they'd give you 30 seconds, and then they'd pull the snow hook and be gone. And that would be at the end of 50 miles.
I couldn't even help Bill hook them up because the males were so strong. I could help him hook up the females because they're, you know, they're light and you can lift them up
Yeah.
at the neck. But the males were just too strong for me. They just dragged me all over.
How many dogs usually did you run together?
10,
Yeah.
8.
And when did you start training them in harness? Right off the bat when they were puppies, or?
Oh no. You have to be careful,
You can't
otherwise
start
you're going to wind up with hip dysplasia and all kinds of problems. You can't start them too young.
And they sour too, don't they?
Yeah, and they sour.
They start too soon.
That's what I
Yeah.
find as well.
I
That's
gotta
what
let them be.
I put a harness on them around 7
Oh,
months or whatever.
you're just playing games.
Yeah, exactly, to make
and,
it fun.
That's a waste of time.
Yeah.
That's a waste of time.
Some mushers will let the pups run beside them when they've got a team out, and if the dogs, I don't know, I think it's kind of brutal sometimes, but sometimes they, the ones that are there at when they get to where they want to go, they're the ones they keep. And I don't know what happens to the others, but
Coyotes get them.
the coyote it seems cruel to me.
Yeah, it's very cruel.
But I don't think that's
But
the way to go either.
I think they're fabulous animals. I really love them.
So at what age did you start like working them on sled then?
8 months?
8 months.
They weren't a year, eh?
Pardon? Eh?
They were just 8 months.
Yeah, about 8 months.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
they'd be.
Yeah, they were pretty big by 8
Oh
months.
yeah, they'd be big dogs by then.
Yeah.
You know, they're.
And when you, did you have them in pens, or did you chain them when you had them here?
Well, we started out.
Yeah, they went on chains.
Yeah, they were in pens.
We have a big pen over there. That's why we were hoping somebody would be interested in buying this place.
I'm interested in buying this place, but I don't have enough money.
I'm taking home all the real estate stuff for my husband.
Yeah, that area there is where we had the dogs.
Yeah.
Now it's about that
You
high
can
with
hook up
green grass. Yeah,
at the back door. We had a shed down there, a white shed that you'll see probably if you look out there, and it was a freezer off the railroad, and we had it over there, and we used to have it for meat storage and what have you, and we'd tie off on the corner of that shed.
and had a steel round piece
Yeah.
that you hooked onto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd tie off and hook the leader up and hook the dog team up and take off from there, and we could be gone for 50 miles. On broken trails, not broken trails, whatever. They got the best feet in the business.
Yeah.
Did you ever trim your dog's feet, like come
Oh, yes.
wintertime?
All the
Yeah,
time.
every year.
the fur
Yep.
underneath? Yeah.
Yep.
You know how it grows
Yeah.
through here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We never had.
'Cause I
went
trim
out
mine,
and I
so I
did
was
log
just
one
wondering.
year. In 1981, I think it was, and 1984, and we trimmed the dog's feet, and I took 1,000 booties, and I gave something like 250 away to the Indian kids, and never used any booties myself.
Their feet are really tough.
Pads of steel is what I say. Like,
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Yeah,
It's
they're
amazing.
yeah they're very, very tough.
Yeah.
They're you have to be very careful looking at an Eskimo dog or looking at a dog and saying, well, it's an Eskimo dog or it's not. The ones that are very heavy coated are not Eskimo dogs. They started out with a whole mixed bunch of breeds in the north, and because they were big dogs, they sold them as Eskimo dogs, or sold them as sled dogs, and people called them Eskimo dogs. But they're not Eskimo dogs. They're
Too bad we threw all that out.
Hmm?
It's sure too bad we threw all that out.
yeah. I had a pile of files about that thick on everybody's dogs in the north, so I could almost tell you where yours came from.
Yeah. I have a third generation of the foundation, my foundation, and they all came from carpenters. They were Quimic with a Q.
Yes.
Yeah, the QI, whatever.
Yeah, that's it.
Melvin, Blackie's,
Yeah.
Brooks' Pup's sister. They were names like that, you know. And his so he was third generation from Carpenter's third
We
generation
had
at
some
Ebrecht.
Quinnick too, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Because that's
There's three
some of the names were-
quite distinct body types of Eskimo dogs. The ones that are very much like the new, like the and I'll think of it in a
You're
minute.
thinking of the short legs and the long
Yes,
legs?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
like
a-
Tundra was short. Leg.
There's a short leg variety that are beautiful and work hard and all the rest of it, but are fairly slow. Probably the females weigh around 100 and weigh around 65 or 70 pounds. The males weigh around 100 pounds, but they're blocky, short,
Wedge, like a
heavy
big
heads.
wedge head,
And then,
tight ears.
well, the ears, they all should have small ears.
Yeah.
They're really quite beautiful.
And then there's the ones that I really preferred were the tall ones that weighed probably 95, 100 pounds, a good male. And they could just go like a son of a gun. And
So a little more leg,
lots more leg. Yeah.
nice deep chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know.
Good
And you have to
solid
be careful
hindquarters.
When you look at them, that there's not too much fur. I mean, they're not something that's just covered in fur because of the Arctic. They have a down underneath the initial coat of fur or of
Yes.
feathers or fur or whatever. The ones that are really heavy coated and the ones with the very bushy tails and heavy necks and what have you are a crossbreed with another variety of dog. So you want to be real careful when you look at them.
And you
because
said then the third one is
third one is
shorter hair, real short hair.
what the heck is the not in the Newfoundland.
St. Bernard.
An Arctic breed that has been sent to the Antarctica.
Siberian.
No.
I don't
They
know.
sent
Samoyeds or
No, Samoyeds are got the longer
No,
hair,
no.
right?
Yeah.
Samoyeds did go to start out really in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible.
it'll come to you.
It'll
don't
come.
worry.
Okay, well, we'll bounce to a different thing then. You had mentioned about where you kept your feed and stuff. So I'm very curious as to what you fed your dogs and how often and, you know, like what did you find? Because with these new processed, you know, kibble, the dog kibble that they seem to be coming out with, some of my gang, I call them little loose. It's more like some of them are passing like a porridge. You know what I mean? You're not getting nice stools,
Firm stuff.
Well,
firm stools. So what did you feed?
we fed. There was an outfit in Alaska at one time that was manufacturing.
What was the name of that stuff?
A dog food from fish.
Okay.
Yeah, you could actually smell the fish when you opened the bag.
And that was very, very good.
They thrived on that.
And then
So a fish-based kibble is what you're saying then?
no,
No,
this
it
was
wasn't
just a
kibble.
powder, or just
So it was sort of.
like rolled oats.
Okay.
No, it wasn't flaky like.
It wasn't flaky like that, but it was just ground up.
Like all brand butter.
Like a dried mash, kind
Yes,
of?
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
dried mash.
Yeah.
And you'd add water to
Yeah,
that?
we threw water in it, and
Yeah.
that was it.
And then you supplemented with, like, did you give them, you obviously gave them raw meat, right?
Oh, we gave them suet.
Suet?
Lots of suet.
Suet, yeah.
Lots and lots of suet.
Did you give them moose meat, caribou
Oh, anything,
scraps,
anything,
anything like
Yeah,
that?
they loved meat anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll eat anything.
And did you cook it or did you
No,
give
no.
it raw? All raw, eh?
All raw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we didn't have time to cook it.
and what did you do like for a worming program?
We had every spring and every fall we wormed the whole works of them.
And what did you worm them with?
Oh, shoot, we couldn't remember that now.
Just something you got at the vets for
Yeah.
everything.
Actually, we varied it because if you use the same stuff year in and year out, it becomes useless.
Same as
we,
horses.
we've been talking
We've
about.
been talking about
Yeah.
that too. Yeah.
Becomes useless.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just
It's
you know,
not-
you're hearing. I mean, I'm getting calls back from people, and because I do have all three breeds, right? Not a bazillion of them or anything, but I find that all three breeds thrive on raw.
On
So,
what?
raw on the raw. Like my husband and I, we hunt. We're hunters. We're avid hunters. So you know, we elk,
Yeah.
moose,
Yeah.
deer,
Oh,
buffalo, beef,
Yeah.
chicken. We raise our we have our own
You
beef.
fed-
We raise
fed
our
a
own
lot of
lamb.
ground raw chicken too, didn't you?
Yeah, we fed a lot of chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to buy probably 6 or 8 tons
Big,
of
huge block.
You buy the
chicken.
blocks, yeah.
in the frozen block.
Yeah.
As soon as it got cold enough in the fall to keep
Then
it.
then it would
We
keep.
bought, because my husband used to be a commercial fisherman, he knows people in some of the rendering plants in BC. So we've been able to get the last couple of winters blocks of fish like that.
Oh, that's perfect.
And some of the dogs, really, there's about 2 dogs who really they just don't want anything to do with it. And that's fine. But the other guys, oh my God, do
They
they ever
just
love
love
it.
it.
Well,
they just
the
go
ones
crazy.
that don't want to have anything to do with it, just let them go hungry for a few days.
Exactly. We were talking about that too the other day.
they-
Yeah.
they'll-
Probably
They'll eat when they're hungry, just
Yeah.
like kids sitting in front of a
damn
table.
right.
right.
The
Yeah.
only problem that we had was watering. They didn't drink very much water.
I know. Yeah.
But they ate snow.
But that's not the best in the West.
No, I
Yeah.
know, but
How often did you feed your dogs?
Every day.
See, because I've been getting, there's so many people out there that really don't know what they're talking about, and they'll say, "What do you mean you feed your dogs every day?" Yeah, my dogs get fed every day.
of
Oh,
course.
well, Canadian Eskimo dogs, you only need to feed them, once a week. And I'm just looking at them like, okay.
How ridiculous. They
It's
There's
like
a lot of misinformation out there.
there's
about
so
that.
much misinformation.
Well, I would be careful now because
Some people do that though, don't they?
in the Arctic, they ate when there was food
When there
available.
was food available.
And they didn't eat when there was no food available.
But that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. We're talking nowadays. There's food everywhere,
That-
and
I agree, but the dogs survived on very little food at times. So people were
But we didn't. We fed every day.
we fed every day.
and yeah.
So how many dogs did you have? Like, what was the most that you had? And
About
what was
38.
38? You had that many, eh?
Mhm.
And you had you did litters every year or every
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
year?
Yeah,
We sold a lot of them,
Yeah.
and we sent one to South Africa, didn't we?
2.
Two.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he just loved those dogs. We sent a video of the pups as they were, little yearlings.
Yeah.
Sorta. And he picked out which ones he wanted, and he loved them.
Where else did you sell them to?
all over.
All over, all over Canada.
Oh, wow.
see, and I mean, if a person wanted to, I mean, I would be honored if I could find somebody that had one of your lines to incorporate with my lines, because
Yeah.
I want to go back. I don't want the newfangled ones that people seem to be, if you ever see any of the dogs coming out of England and stuff like that,
Yeah.
they're very tall, very slender, very
Narrow in the
in the chest,
No
and
tail, no feather tail,
Oh,
kind of
wow.
thing. They don't look like Eskimo dogs.
they're
no,
just
they
darn.
look, they don't.
Yeah.
The fellow that got the last of our dogs, and he must have been breeding them too. Craig was his name, remember?
Yeah.
Craig.
Yeah.
What was his first
Craig.
name?
Jim
Jim
or
Craig?
James
Jim.
Craig, yeah.
Yeah.
Jim
Do you know
Craig.
him?
I've talked to him on the phone
Yeah.
because he used to talk to another lady in Ontario, and he was having a lot of problems. Somebody had moved in the area and put in a boarding kennel,
Oh yeah.
and what had happened that I heard was that he was having a lot of legal problems because they were saying it was the Eskimo dogs, and you guys know they just don't make any noise unless you're coming out there with the food or the
Yeah, that's
harnesses, right?
Yeah.
Like they're
Very-
so quiet, they don't yap or.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
And he
yeah.
couldn't understand where all these complaints were coming from, and it was a new kennel that had moved down the road, so he was having a lot of problem because of the reputation of the Canadian Eskimo dog. So I don't know what ended up happening, but I think
He did, when we'd hear from him, he used to send us a Christmas card.
Yeah.
And he did say he was having problems.
Do you know where he lives now? If a person was
He's
trying.
in Alberta somewhere.
He's in, he was in Canmore.
Canmore.
Alberta.
Canmore.
Canmore,
Okay.
I think. I don't know. And his wife's name.
Actually out of Canmore. Because of his dogs, he bought a piece of property
Yeah.
out of Canmore.
That's
but he
right,
was
yeah.
having, somebody was giving him a bad time.
yeah, they really were. They really.
What was her name? Roseanne or
Rosa-
Roxanne?
Yeah.
Roseanne.
Roxanne.
Roxanne.
Roxanne. Yeah, that's his wife's name.
Yeah.
And I heard from a dog food representative. I guess it was, what did I say, in 2003
3 or 4.
or 4, that he had taken a couple of his dogs down to the Calgary Dog Show.
Oh.
And
so
he was just there. He wasn't showing them, but he was just there, kind of like they do those promotions for the indigenous dogs to Canada. And he was there, and the representative from the dog food company called me, and she said, "Oh," and I said, "Yes, I've spoken to him on the phone." And then I spoke to him again, and he said to me, "Well," he said, "I don't know whether you really have Canadian Eskimo dogs. You need to talk to my friend Bill Thompson, and if he says your dogs are okay, then he says, maybe I'll do business with you." And that was kind of the last time I talked to him.
This was Jim Craig?
This was
Yeah.
Jim Craig.
He was
Yeah.
a Scotchman.
Yes, and I'm Irish, so it was kind of really funny. But he told me a lot of little things. Like he said, if you can't get a hold of the parasite stuff, you can feed them buttons. He said of buttons of caribou hide, like the size of a
yeah,
button.
that would do it.
And the way the hide is, it cleans out all their intestines and
wouldn't
stuff.
be
He gave me like
surprised.
little things like that my dad from Ireland told me about horses, which
Yeah.
I really incorporate a lot into my kennels.
Well, I
so.
would, you're talking about worming?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
this was like
Well,
a
I'd
preventive.
certainly go and get commercial wormer.
I do.
But
yeah.
you know, that might work too.
Well, that might work.
Yeah.
Jim knew 5/8 of 3/10 of sweet bugger all about Eskimo dogs when he got out of the English Army and came over to this country. And he married a nurse that I had sold a couple of dogs to in the Arctic.
Oh, okay.
And then they were divorced, and then he bought a couple more dogs.
That's not the girl that's with him now.
No.
No.
And then he married Roseanne or Roxanne or
Roxanne.
whatever the heck her name was, and they bought a piece of property at Canmore, and then he came up here. I don't know when, but he bought the last of my the dogs that we
How many
had.
did we have? About 8 or 10?
14.
14. Okay, yeah, he bought the whole works. So he probably bred them himself.
But the last conversation that I had with him, I think they were all dead. Well, I'm sure they're all
But he
dead.
must have had offspring.
But he would have offspring.
Yeah,
But you can never tell what the offspring were.
I'll check in my book, but I may have his address.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I do want to try and keep
get it,
the solid lines, the old lines, well, I know because you guys have shown dogs, so I know you understand what group 1, 2, 3, and 4 is.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been showing the dogs since 2007. And this last year, I mean, I've been getting group 4s, group 3rds, group 2nds. I'm working for that blue ribbon.
Well,
but I mean,
my wife is a master at showing dogs.
so I'm working very hard. And some people are kind of looking down their nose at me because my dogs are CKC registered. I'm showing him in the ring. Canadian Eskimo dogs have no business being in the show ring.
Who said that?
Well, all these people up north, kind of sort of thing.
This fellow stayed in our guest house and ran dogs, and then I got him interested in showing, so he was showing, and this is Reggie